Let's get into some of the worst bartenders from Bar Rescue. You've seen those who were lazy, rude, or simply clueless, but this one, all of the above.
Sweetheart, hang on. Hang on.
This is exactly what I didn't want. I don't want this. I come in here and I bust my ass.
Trust me, that was just the opening act. Her attitude was unbelievable, but her skills, even more mind-numbingly atrocious.
Gimlet.
I have no idea.
Nobody comes in and orders a gimlet, ever. Which I have never sold in 16 years, not once.
But the last bartender on today's list, the final straw. A meltdown so explosive that even Taffer himself was left frozen in disbelief. What did this bartender do that was so bad? Stick around, you won't believe your eyes.
The bitch, because I'm the only one that says anything.
Stephanie, she's a firecracker.
I wanted to go in there and strangle that kid.
But first, let's head over to the fifth, where bartender Alyssa's performance almost made Taffer lose it. So here's the thing about terrible bartenders. They all think they're mixology prodigies, but in reality, their knowledge is so non-existent, it's almost comedic. Case in point, this disaster right here.
You can tell by the glass that drink sucks. This is a pint glass. It's made for beer, not a cocktail. It's just not gonna work.
But hey, let's be fair, maybe the dirty glasses weren't her fault. Maybe she got unlucky. Maybe, just maybe, she could redeem herself by, I don't know, making a solid drink. Oh, but what happened next sealed her fate.
Oh, God. I don't know what a gimlet is.
Oh.
It's a classic.
She does not know how to make a gimlet. That's right, this self-proclaimed bartender is baffled by a drink with exactly 3 ingredients. The excuse she gave, more ridiculous than a reality show reunion special.
I've worked here 16 years and never had anyone order one.
Never had someone order a gimlet.
I have never made one.
The recon team was flabbergasted, and then she did something truly mind-blowing. She asked them how to make it. Excuse me? How does she have the audacity to stand behind a bar? Instead of feeling ashamed, she doubled down with a reaction that made everyone's jaws hit the floor.
Pissing me off. Ridiculous.
At this point, the recons had no choice but to abandon their gimlet dreams before she sent the entire bar into meltdown mode. They opted for a simple whiskey sour instead, praying she wouldn't botch that. Spoiler, she did.
You can't make a whiskey sour that
Look at
fast.
the color of that. That's not a whiskey sour.
Did get a cherry. And a whiskey sour? Yeah, she was like, let's just put this drink in a smaller one.
The result? A beverage so tragic that even the worst dive bar in history would have rejected it. The recon team was in hysterics, but Alyssa? Oh, she did not find it funny. What she did next was straight out of a soap opera.
She just walked out. Like, I think she's, like, done. Whoa.
She walked out, just strutted away like she was leaving a job interview she never wanted in the first place. But John Taffer and the owner somehow convinced her to return for training. The problem? She came back with the same I know everything attitude, and John's expert wasn't having it.
I'll just tell you right now, Elisa, as a bartender, you should know a gimlet. I don't know what Elisa's deal is with the attitude.
If I were Tommy, I'd have thrown her out before she even finished her first sentence. But credit to him, his patience was Olympic level. Not that Alyssa made it easy for him.
What's your drink you served last night?
Alice?
The Alice? Would you mind maybe jumping back here and making it? Devin?
Then, in peak delusion, she called training a game. A game. All Tommy asked was for her to make the bar's signature cocktail, the one she supposedly created. After an embarrassing amount of arguing, she finally made it, and it was absolutely horrendous. So bad, it made her attitude stink less in comparison.
That watermelon still is too punchy. And Elisa, in no way am I knocking your drink. I just think the proportions might be off.
And then came the grand finale. She hit her 100th eye roll of the day, and just when you thought she couldn't get any worse, she pulled another stunt that left everyone speechless.
But the whole point of this training, Elisa, is to improve and get better.
She refused to listen. Fully locked into I'm always right mode, she walked away again. John's team tried one last time to explain reality to her, but she wasn't having it. She packed up her attitude and stormed off. The owner tried to reason with her, but it only escalated.
This is exactly what I didn't want.
I know
don't
you
want
don't.
this. I come in here and I bust my ass every day.
I understand. All they're do is...
At this point, every attempt to get through to her was an exercise in futility. Even the owner looked exhausted, and if your boss is tired of you, that's a pretty clear sign it's time to hit the road.
Little problem with the criticism because that was a drink that she'd made up. If you want to go, you can go.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Now, here's where things got weird. The owner wasn't nearly as upset as he should have been. Because, let's be real, if an employee refuses to learn and actively makes the bar worse, the only logical move is to fire them. But guess what? He didn't.
So I had to let her go.
Oh, you just let her go?
Not as fire. I just Told her
Oh,
no.
let her go home.
Yeah.
That's right, he did not fire her. And no one was more disappointed than bar expert Tommy. The guy practically aged 10 years in real time. Even the other bartenders were floored.
When he said he let her go, part of me was like, oh, finally. But hearing that Brad just let her go home.
So, the moral of the story? Some bartenders are so bad they make you question the laws of employment. And some owners are so spineless, they let it happen. Cheers to that. But wait, don't go anywhere just yet, because the bartender next in line is even more baffling. Ever heard of a bar where bartenders don't just make drinks, they experiment with them? And right in front of the customers. Buckle up, because we're taking you to the Tonic Lounge. Get ready, because this is gonna be one wild ride.
I just made it up.
She just made it up.
I make them up everybody for individual people. And I've never made this drink before, so we're gonna find out if it's good or not. You're not lying.
No, I'm not lying. That's ridiculous.
This is foul. It's bad.
John sent in 2 local recon, and the second they stepped into the bar, they were already disgusted. The place looked like it hadn't seen a cleaning crew since the Stone Age. But let's get to the real disaster behind the bar. The recon sat down, ready to order, hoping for even a semblance of competence. Spoiler alert, they were hoping in vain.
Your drinks, the ones that you specialize in.
For you, I was thinking, what if we do...
Wait, what? Why isn't she looking at the menu? Does she even know what's on it? Instead, she's winging it, acting like she's crafting some artisanal masterpiece, when in reality, she has no clue what she's doing. But trust me, what she said next? Oh, you're going to lose it.
Blueberry vodka, soda, lime juice.
There's no recipe at all.
No, she's just throwing things in a cup.
The sheer confidence in her voice is mind-blowing. She speaks like she's been mixing drinks for decades, but then she drops a bomb about how she came up with it. And folks, you are not ready for this nonsense.
I just made it up.
She just made it up.
I make them up everybody for individual people. And I've never made this drink before, so we're gonna find out if it's good or not.
Are you kidding me? This is like a kid throwing random ingredients into a blender and calling it a secret recipe. Professionalism? Zero. Basic bartending knowledge? Non-existent. And John and his experts? They look like they just witnessed a crime scene.
Do you want to try something she just thought of that she's never tasted herself?
No.
Oh, John, you are right to be skeptical. Not a single soul should drink what's about to be served. Watching her prep this monstrosity is enough to make you rethink ever stepping foot into a bar again. No, seriously. If you're watching this at home, you'll want to get up and leave your house.
Is she making crushed ice?
She's muddling the ice.
So she's making water.
And let's give her credit where it's due, determination. Sure, I guess. But skill? Oh, absolutely not. And just when you think it can't possibly get worse, she takes it to a level that defies human logic.
Okay, look at this soda on the bottom. Now she's short poured, so she'll just top it with soda.
Measure it.
A recipe? Guidelines? Who needs those when you can just dump things into a glass and hope for the best? The recons were frozen in horror, watching the worst science experiment of their lives. Then, she finally served the drink, and let me tell you, their reaction, priceless.
So if I ordered that, could you do it again?
Yeah. Is it gonna be the exact, completely accurate same? No.
I guarantee she's never making that again. Don't believe me? Just wait for the moment the recons take their first sip, or should I say half a sip, before their souls left their bodies.
I can't drink that. That's like Kool-Aid.
You train on your off time. You don't make up stuff in all your shift. That's when you have together.
Her intentions were almost in the right place, but the execution? A tragic, horrifying, gut-wrenching failure. But wait, the horror doesn't stop there. No, this isn't just about bad bartending. Oh no, the real reason these drinks were undrinkable? You're not ready.
Can you do me a favor and look into these bottles for me and tell me that you're serving your guest?
Yes, bugs. The bartender refused to believe it, but then the expert grabbed a flashlight, took a closer look, and what she found? Well, let's just say John's fury reached levels previously unseen.
You're not lying.
No, I'm not lying. That's ridiculous.
This is foul. It's bad.
Yeah, this bartender at Tonic Lounge was absolutely wild for pulling all that. But you know what? At least she was making an effort to engage with the customers. Effort counts for something, right? But not everyone even pretends to care. Some bartenders didn't just ignore the customers, they didn't even care about the owner. Selfishness peaked when they started pocketing tips at the expense of the bar. Yeah, you heard that right. I'm not making this up. Take a look at Rachel from the Champs Sports Pub and see for yourself. This one's unbelievable.
New drinks are a big hit with the locals. Even with the packed house, the bartenders are pouring accurately.
I've been coming here on and off for about 15 years, and this is the best burger I've had here.
John Taffer rolled up to this train wreck, and I swear, it was like stepping into a time machine set to permanent disaster. Megaphones painted on the walls? Check. Wooden window frames? Sure, why not? A general aesthetic that screamed, "We stopped trying in 1975?" Absolutely. Even his recon team wanted nothing to do with this mess. That's how bad it was.
It really gives you a sense that you should keep walking. I would never want to stop through.
Then enter Brian Hill, a battle-tested chef with 2 decades of culinary combat experience. He walked into this catastrophe and immediately regretted it. This wasn't a bar. It was a wildlife documentary gone terribly wrong. The owner, absolutely hammered, living his best, worst life at the bar. The bartenders, they had all the usefulness of decorative plants, except decorative plants at least make a room look better.
Oh, look at this. I love you.
And speaking of usefulness, let's talk about one of the bartenders. Sure, she was just doing her job if her job was blatant fraud, because at this point, she wasn't serving drinks. Oh no, she was running a straight up scam, serving whatever she felt like and charging customers based on vibes alone.
Giving away the owner's provisions and giving me the 30-second pour, that's not how you do it. That's bad for business.
And the drinks, if you could even call them that. This wasn't bartending, it was a free-for-all. There was no measuring, no consistency, just reckless pouring like it was a college frat party. Meanwhile, Brian checked out the food situation, and Rachel, one of the bartenders, had the audacity to get weirdly honest about how bad it was.
That's good.
Burgers we can't have.
Oh, you can't?
Brian ordered a burger and nachos, while the couple next to him stared on in horror, probably reconsidering every life choice that led them to this place. And then the food arrived. What Brian saw next? Pure, unfiltered nightmare fuel.
Wow.
I don't think he expected those kind of nachos.
The nachos looked like they'd been through a cheese apocalypse. Overpouring liquor was one thing, but whatever was happening on that plate, that was a crime. Was it cheese? Mustard? Some sort of experimental substance created in a lab? Nobody knew. Brian took a bite, and you could see the soul leave his body. It was that bad.
It's heavy. The cheese is sour. That chili is just disgusting.
And while the nachos were an insult to the concept of food, they weren't even the main event. No, that honor went to the so-called signature burger. When it finally arrived, even the staff couldn't pretend it wasn't a disaster. And if your own employees can't muster up a fake smile, you know it's bad.
I took one bite and I just spit into a napkin. You can throw it away.
It tasted like I saw you put it in your napkin.
Brian, now deeply traumatized, called John Taffer to give him the full breakdown of just how far this place had fallen. Amid all the madness, he pinpointed the root of the problem, and let me tell you, it was painfully obvious.
And an owner that is visibly here, but checked out.
So there's just no attention to...
Then came the moment of reckoning. John met with the owners, slapped down a file with their sales numbers, and boom, reality check. The second he hit them with the hard truth, you could see the panic set in. This wasn't just a failing bar, it was a financial sinkhole, swallowing their money and their sanity at record speed.
You gave away $1,640 worth of liquor. You did $2,400 in sales, you should have done $4 grand.
Then John turned his fury onto the bartenders, the real architects of this catastrophe. But instead of acknowledging their blatant theft and incompetence, they shrugged it off like it was no big deal. The entitlement? Off the charts. John, however, was locked and loaded, ready to serve them a reality check they couldn't ignore.
It was just a nightmare. Ugh. It's like getting caught cheating on a test. We know we're taking some off the top.
Rachel, in particular, didn't even flinch, so John hit her with the brutal truth. The only reason this bar was still standing was pure luck. Location, and nothing else, had kept this place from total ruin. If it had been anywhere else, it would have collapsed ages ago, and John made damn sure she heard every word.
Around the street where they like you guys, I can tell you it was the bottom of the barrel in the local neighborhood. Is that a fair statement?
But did Rachel take this as a wake-up call? Of course not. She immediately played the underdog card, acting like John had personally insulted her existence, as if she wasn't one of the main reasons this place was sinking like the Titanic.
We have really good regulars here who all do really well. I don't like that you said that they're bottom of the barrel customers, so I'm going to defend my regulars in that.
Let's be real, customers only like the drinks here because the bartenders were practically giving liquor away. If someone handed you a full glass of tequila and called it a cocktail, you'd probably think the place was amazing too.
How that's gonna make your money, Joe?
No.
Okay, end of story, isn't it?
I don't agree with you, but whatever.
Rachel's defense mode kicked in at full blast. John, at this point, could barely process the delusion. The bar was failing. The owners were drowning in debt. And Rachel, she acted like everything was totally fine. And just when you thought she couldn't dig a deeper hole, she dropped an excuse that defied all logic.
How much money did you make last night?
$300 to $400.
$300 to $400?
Yes.
On how much sales?
$900.
Then came the final, undeniable truth: Rachel was making more money than the owners. That's right, she was pocketing cash left and right, and that's why she didn't see a problem. Straight up theft, disguised as bartending. But the act was over. John was beyond done. He turned to Joe, the owner, for his thoughts. And shockingly, Joe's response was actually humble.
In regard to trying to protect her customers.
Joe, if you're gonna keep understanding the staff, I'm gonna walk right out the door right now.
But just when it seemed like Joe might finally wake up and take control of his own business, he started making excuses for Rachel. Excuses! For someone who was robbing him blind. John, now in full disbelief, tried to hammer it home, defending this disaster was his downfall. And just when you thought things couldn't possibly get crazier, oh, they did. But you won't believe what happened next.
We lost an employee today because I ended her business. Is it a loss? Nah.
There's Shauna drinking behind the bar. She's one of your bartenders.
Okay.
And smoking a cigarette behind the bar.
And
I'm in the mood for a dirty martini.
This place is a joke.
when John rolled up to the bar, the first impressions? Bill, the owner, was hammered, casually instructing bartenders to overpour like it was standard practice. Meanwhile, Shauna made her chaotic debut behind the bar. A complete disaster.
Here's our owner, Bill. This is the guy who tells his staff to overpour.
Good night, starting.
Shauna was tossing back shots like it was rush week and puffing away on a cigarette smack dab at the bar. Health code, who? But her next move? Oh, it was the pièce de résistance of chaos.
A cigarette holding over the beer glass.
I don't give a if the customers are allowed to.
The level of carelessness was jaw-dropping, leaving John and his team visibly cringing, and just when it seemed Shauna couldn't up the ante, she downed yet another shot moments before the recon team stepped in. But the cherry on top, her attempt at a dirty martini was about to steal the spotlight, for all the wrong reasons.
I'm in the mood for a dirty martini.
This place is a joke.
The bewilderment on her face was almost comical, but what she did next left everyone floored. Completely misunderstanding the concept of a dirty martini, she improvised in the most bizarre way imaginable.
She's putting her hand.
Joe and his team were utterly dumbfounded. This wasn't just a lapse in professionalism, it was downright appalling, crossing the line from unsanitary to outright shocking. And as if things couldn't get worse, Shauna poured the drink over ice without even asking the recon crew if they wanted it that way. When they pointed it out, she begrudgingly swapped out the glass, but the olives? Forget about it.
Yeah, I'll take them out. That's cool.
Now the customer has to reach in and get that olive.
It was, without a doubt, one of the laziest moves a bartender could make. Unsurprisingly, the martini was a disaster. Shauna had already confessed she didn't know how to make it, but that didn't make the train wreck any easier to watch. Things took a nosedive when the recons ordered a Swiss bacon burger, medium rare. Shauna outright admitted she couldn't guarantee the bacon would be cooked right. But the real horror show began when the food finally arrived. Just look at this catastrophe.
Look at her look on her face.
Yeah, she's chewing that over.
Yikes! The food was totally inedible, like rubbery, stale leftovers that had somehow made their way onto the plates. When they rightfully complained, Shauna's response was even more absurd.
I'm not impressed.
No, not by a long shot. I'm not gonna eat that.
As if that was a valid excuse for serving something that was practically inedible. Instead of taking responsibility or attempting to fix the issue, Shauna did something that left the recon team absolutely stunned.
Anything else you guys put that's not normal?
But it didn't stop there. The recons tried to salvage the situation by calling her name, multiple times, mind you, and Shauna's reaction?
Shauna. Shauna.
She's done for the night.
Can we get to...
No acknowledgement, nothing. Instead, she casually lit up another cigarette like it was part of the job and left the customers hanging. It was almost unbelievable that this was the person supposed to be earning tips for providing service. The other bartender had to step in and take over, but Shauna's attitude only got more defiant. Instead of feeling any shame for ignoring the customers, she decided to escalate things, doing something completely outrageous next.
Like he does on the show.
She just flipped someone off?
Yes, she did.
Yep, she straight up flashed them the middle finger, as if it were no big deal. The recons were absolutely stunned. I mean, can you imagine paying for a bar membership, expecting some kind of service, and getting treated like this instead? It was beyond unprofessional. Then, in true dramatic fashion, she stomped inside in a huff, but don't think she went to gather herself. Instead of that, she opted for something not so surprising.
You need to calm down. Take a deep breath, slap a big smile on your face, and let it go.
She was crying like she was the victim, such a drama queen. It was infuriating to watch because, in her mind, she was completely justified and everything revolved around her. And just when you thought the chaos had peaked, someone decided to make a guest appearance.
What the heck is that? Oh!
Yes, you saw that right. A raccoon literally wandered into the bar, just running around, causing absolute mayhem, knocking things over, and, to top it all off, prepare to be floored by what John saw next.
Raccoon!
That is so un-Sanders here.
And what were Shauna and the owners doing about it? Absolutely nothing. They just stood there watching the chaos like it was just another day at the bar. By this point, John had seen enough. He decided it was time to step in, but Shauna wasn't going to make it easy. As John approached the entrance, who did he run into?
Well, you can't come in. You are obviously not. No, you can't come in.
Yup, that's Shauna for you. She could barely stand, stumbling all over the place, clearly drunk out of her mind. John, staying calm, introduced himself and offered a handshake. Shauna, in her drunken haze, took one look at him and said something absolutely wild.
Oh my God.
You're not gonna shake my hand?
No, you're like the big
Can
jolly
you find
guy.
my hand?
It would have been funny if the situation weren't so tragic. John was clearly holding back his frustration. The whole interaction was like something out of a bad comedy sketch. Then John asked her how many drinks she'd had that night. Surprisingly, Shauna didn't try to hide it. She admitted she'd had plenty. But here's where things took a wild turn.
Well, they'll like us to drink, so customers will keep buying drinks.
In all of bar rescue history, this was a first, an owner actually telling the bartenders to drink. The reasoning behind it was completely twisted and made no sense at all. John's face said it all, pure disbelief. John, trying to get to the bottom of this mess, started grilling Shauna about the bar staff and her behavior that night. But she was so far gone, she couldn't even form a coherent sentence and instead did this.
Does that make any sense?
No.
I'm gonna call you a cab. Let's go inside.
It was obvious Shauna was too drunk to have any kind of meaningful conversation. She was all over the place. This was a classic case of an owner enabling their bartender to the point of self-destruction. But wait for the next bar, the story flipped completely. Instead of the owner being the problem, they were the victim, constantly disrespected by a bartender who blatantly ignored rules about not drinking behind the bar.
I said Hangar 24, you go no, Coors Light.
I said Hangar 24.
No, you didn't. No, you f***ed up.
No way, I would never go to live.
You tell them to come make their own pizza. Burn. They can come make it themselves. Not their customer, but Jesse.
The owner, Jesse, he was more like one of the gang than a boss. And naturally, the bar staff operated more like a dysfunctional family, with a bunch of grown-up kids who weren't interested in listening. But the worst of the bunch?
Because I'm the only one that says anything.
Stephanie, she's a firecracker.
I wanted to go in there and strangle that kid.
Stephanie. She was absolutely unbelievable. And with her, the unruly staff was spiraling completely out of control.
I wanted to go in there and strangle that kid.
Like, calm down a little bit.
I'm pissed.
And like any chaotic household full of misbehaving kids, there were rules, but following them? Nah, not their problem. Jesse was more of a friend than a boss, and the real shocker was that he was the only one left to do all the work. Where were the bartenders, you ask? Well, take a look.
He doesn't want people drinking behind the bar. He did.
When John Taffer walked into the wheelhouse to assess the situation, it didn't take long for him to spot the red flags. And the biggest one? Stephanie.
I said Hangar 24, you go no, Coors Light.
I said Hangar 24.
No, you didn't. No, you f***ed up.
No way, I would never go to live.
Can you believe that? Her attitude was jaw-dropping. John and his team were in disbelief over how she was treating customers. And honestly, anyone watching could barely believe it either. And as a classic spoiled bartender, her next move was no surprise.
How about freaking, was it Katie's house?
But bad attitudes weren't the only problem at the wheelhouse. The bartenders had no clue how to make proper drinks. Case in point, their specialty cocktail, a monstrosity called the Trash Can. Honestly, the name was the only thing they got right. Don't believe me? Get ready to be left speechless.
That they throw everything in the world in. Do they call it the trash can because that's where you end up puking from drinking this?
The worst part? The drink had more alcohol in it than anyone should reasonably consume in the time they were at the bar. It was reckless, dangerous, and a clear sign that the bartenders were completely out of their depth. Back in the kitchen, things were really heating up, literally.
The smoke coming out of this oven, that's filth, guys. So this pizza's gonna taste like that filth. This is the conveyor from hell.
But did she own up to her mistake and try to make it better? No. What she did instead caught everyone off guard.
You tell them to come make their own pizza. Burn. They can come make it themselves. Not the customer, but Jesse.
And that's a wrap on the absolute worst bartender in bar rescue history. From terrible pours to total chaos behind the bar, this disaster had John seeing red. Now, here's a question. If you ordered a drink and the bartender completely butchered it, would you give them another chance or walk out? Let me know in the comments. And if you love watching Taffer lose his mind over incompetence, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Oh, and if you think this was bad, just wait until you see the next video. Trust me, you won't believe it.
Because you look at me. You're a f***ing idiot. Really? Yes, because you're f***ing loves you. You're